So let's go through how to install the DotApp framework from scratch. We'll show all the possibilities. We will show them on Windows, but the same applies to Linux. Only one method changes how to get to DotApper, which is my recommended way of installing it. So we can install using Composer. The command can be found on the main page in the main repository on GitHub. So as you can see, it's a very simple installation. Let's delete it so we can show the next method. Now we will download DotApper. This is my recommended way to install it. It's essentially a script that runs very easily and allows you to install and maintain core updates. So we'll run a simple command for installation. As you can see, it's installed in just a few moments, and updating the framework is just as simple. We replace the install command with update, and that's basically it. It always updates the core without overwriting our configuration files. So this is how you can easily update the framework's core. Super simple. For Linux, you can use simply wget command, rest is the same. Another way is to use cloning from Git. Also simple, so let's delete it again. And we will install it this way. As you can see, a few seconds and the framework is installed. But I'll proceed with the recommended method, so let's go through it again and I will show the entire MCP server setup along with the .app framework installation using the recommended method. So we'll download DotApper again, a tool that speeds up working with this framework. We'll run the actual installation. Just to be safe, we'll also do an update and we're ready to work. Now we'll need to list some routes so we can see that the framework is working, that it's properly installed. We'll run some tests. You can see that the tests are working, so the framework is ready for our application that we need. Now we can move on to actual programming. So the first thing we'll need is to create a module, since the .app framework is essentially all about modules. It's modular. So we'll create a module called MCP test. In the module, we'll create a controller. Let's call it MCP. It's very simple to work with this tool. Now we can verify if our module is functioning correctly. As we can see, everything is ready, everything works. So now we can also check, and a nice folder has been created here. We have controllers here. We have a sample controller that's included by default. We can completely remove it. We don't need it. And we have everything we need. We have the initialization script for this module. Every module has its initialization scripts where routes are defined. Here we have our created controller. It also has some default content. Application modules are in the app/modules folder, configurations and app folder in config.php file. That's where the main configuration is located. So I'll create a sample configuration where we mainly set the application name and an encryption key for the application. You can set up databases there, but in our case, we won't need that. So we'll set an application name, come up with an encryption key, which then encrypts the transmitted data. Everyone chooses a different key. Everyone picks their own key that suits them. And we'll set it up since we'll be creating an MCP server for sending emails, so naturally I'll need to set up some email settings. The framework has a built-in facade for email, so the configuration is very simple. We'll name the account like we have a test account here, right? We'll name it set up the IMAP connection, SMTP connection. Since in the examples we'll be saving emails to the sent folder, we need to have IMAP set up, of course, to save it properly. Since the password you see here has been changed anyway, so I'll leave it here. I won't blur it or hide it since the password is no longer valid when you're watching this video, so it's fine, I don't have to worry about it. And these are basically our basic settings. So we have all the necessary settings. We have the connection to the mail server set up, IMAP and SMTP for sending, even when we want to save to the sent folder. And now we'll clean up some default text to have a nice clean controller. We'll use the initialization route as our main one. And now let's proceed step by step. So what we'll need is to use the email facade, use the MCP class. But since we already have this class in use, we'll give it an alias. So we don't have issues with it, we can move this out. And we can start writing So it will essentially be our static method run MCP. It will basically be the only one that will handle everything. We'll create some method inside of controller through which we'll add tools. We will name it add tools and it will simply use MCP facade. Well, we'll name the tool send email, add some description for it. Now, what settings will we require? To email, type, string, some description and explanation for AI assistant, So assistant will use data, where to send the email, some subject, some email content, body, and some setting whether we'll save it or not save it to the sent folder. Here we'll just change the description. And now we move to the callback, which is the heart of tool. Well, and here it will be simple. Well, numlock was turned off, so we had some typing problems here. Well, and first, we will pass all variables coming in the request. Variables are protected against various types of attacks, so we can disable protection by using .app unprotect function to ensure that the data will be as expected in the case of artificial intelligence, so there won't be any unexpected symbols. So we'll disable it by this simple method. We will make some if block to decide whether we want to save email to send folder or we don't want to. We'll use the email facade, and we'll use our account name that we chose, which is tasteac in our case, which we selected. So here we just add the folder where it should save to the sent folder. It will go from the same account. Good. This is the basic setup. Now we just need to return the results. So we put there some if block. So when the result is okay, we return values and success status. And if status is false, we do throw an exception with some error message. The MCP server uses try-catch blocks, so if we throw an exception here, in reality, it won't stop the program execution, but this exception will be passed as an error message to the artificial intelligence. So in our case, to our assistant. Alright, so we have this now. We pass our parameters from a request, email, and other ones. So that's basically everything. Alright, and now we just need to achieve module initialization. We need to define the route here. So the first thing we will call is our method in controller MCP called addTools. Just to inform you, at this point there is missing letter S at the end, so correct is controllers, not controller. We needed to insert our tools into MCP server. That's the first step. And then we just add root to the router. We'll add our root, which we'll call the module. The module is called MCP test, so we use MCP test. In the MCP module, we call the controller named MCP, and we call the method run MCP. That's basically it. We can also mention that it's essentially static root, so we can use router constant static root. This makes the router work a bit faster, but it doesn't matter in our example with just one route. If we don't specify that it's a static route, router will decide automatically. And that's basically it. So in the module, we set it to initialize on the main/route. On the post method, we send everything to the MCP controller in the MCP test module and the run MCP function. And that's basically it. With this, we're done and can move straight to testing. And now we can proceed to actual testing. We have a window with the GPT model 4.1 mini. Here our server is running at this address. Of course, it's showing a 404 error now since it responds to post method requests only and browser use get method. Here we have the recipient's email address open, which we'll use for testing. Here is the sender's email address where we'll test whether it's saved to the sent folder. And we can start testing. First, we'll let it load and display the functions from our server. And now we can clearly see here, yes, that it's working nicely, communicating, so we'll ask it to send a nice email to our test address. and we see a message here that it was sent with success. We can check it. AI Assistant formatted it nicely without issues, but as we can see, it wasn't saved to the sent folder because we didn't ask it to. So now we'll ask it to send again, and this time save to the sent folder. So here we have our email. And let's wait a bit. So here we have it. And we can see that we already have the email here. We can see that we have it here in sent folder. So basically we just say thank you to our assistant. And that's basically it. That's all for today.